I want to open on a dramatic reading of Redfin's earnings call. Devon, can you please be Glenn Kelman?
Such a fucking perfect Trash Future sentence to begin with.
Sure, man. Who do you want me to be?
Glenn Kelman, CEO of Redfin.
Okay, sure.
Also, the transcribed audio has a typo in the last sentence. So after thank you, just read the part that I've put in bold here.
Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to be Jay McCandless, VP of Equity Research at Wedbush Securities.
I love improv.
All right, I need a company. All right, I'm hearing Redfin. Okay, all right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So, Glenn, just to take this a step further, what is Redfin's plan B if mortgage rates don't come down? Because to me, this sounds very much like August of 2023, where one said rates were going to come down, and we really didn't see that move this year until we thought employment numbers were starting to fade a little bit. So can you kind of walk us through what the plan B is if rates go back to like high sixes or low sevens?
That's a great question. Plan B, drink our own urine or the competitor's blood. Stay in the foxhole. I don't know if you remember, but the last earnings call ended with me singing a line from a Who song, Won't Get Fooled Again, where I said, we're not banking on low rates when other people have thought they might come down. I don't know. I'm just very, very seasoned in ups and downs in the housing market. If it comes, it will be upside.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll drink our urine before the blood. Gee, I wish I hadn't said that. I'd love to notify you.
I feel such a kinship with Glenn Kelman, right? Because he comes off in this conversation like a guy who's trying really hard to do the macho thing and just is like not really equipped for it and realizes it's like vaulted into a conversation where he realizes that he's said to a room full of people in a professional setting, yeah, we're gonna like drink our own urine and probably our competitor's blood.
It's one of the most reassuring messages I can imagine getting. If I was in crisis and I got this message verbatim, I would be on the news like within 24 hours.
Stay in the if the Samaritans texted me back like that.
Stay in the foxhole.
I'm coming down off that bridge and I'm doing some shit. I don't know what it is yet, but like the first person to fist fight an entire mental health team.
Yeah, but like the first person to fist fight an entire mental health team, and that's like the moment it all turned around.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually like restored self-esteem and worth.
Oh, you're having like your nobody moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
It's just like, I'm gonna fuck you up, and I fuck up the entire mental health team.
Yeah.
And that would improve your mental health.
I believe this, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, what also is really funny is like Redfin is just a bit like an American Zoopla or Rightmove.
Oh, so they're like in the like Rightmove group chat, just like this is like our Stalingrad. Like,
yeah.
We're going to be drinking piss. We're going to be drinking blood. We're going to be drinking cum. We're going to be drinking sebum, the kind of like thing that extrudes out of a follicle. We're going to be drinking bodily fluids you haven't even heard of, motherfucker.
We're going to be doing shots of plasma.
We are so passionate about finding these people their dream home that we're going to be drinking black bile.
To me, this sort of strikes me as someone who, like, when you think of a line and you think it's going to like land really well, and it's going to be like the coolest shit anyone said, but you like miss it
every day of my life.
That's all I do.
You sort of you get so hyped by it that you miss how weird it sounds.
Yeah, you like trip over your own punchline or whatever. Yeah, totally.
Right. But my question is just like, why does the urine come before the like? Yeah, why is it we'll drink our own urine or our competitor's blood?
Well, I mean, in fairness, right? I think the thing is, if you're drinking your competitor's blood, you've already like incapacitated them, and by drinking their blood, you're going to incapacitate them further. Whereas by drinking your own piss first, you demoralize them, you shake them psychically.
Yeah, if I was in a performance review of some kind and someone was like, "Hey, look, the numbers aren't quite working well. What are you going to do next quarter to like improve them?" I feel like the answer, "I'm going to drink my own piss," would sort of be somewhere in the middle of like potential responses I might give to that question.
It's like sort of Mass Effect, like neutral option.
The piss, that's the survival food. The blood, that's victory wine. All right. If you're doing blood first, you're insane. You've won, and then you're going back for a taste of piss.
You're just like drinking blood, and you're like, you know what would really wash this?
You know
down?
what?
Is it like one of those things where it's like you drink one for health, one for fun?
Yeah.
One for hydration.
Good for health, bad for education.
It's thinner than blood, like, it'll help wash it down.
Yeah. I want to work at this company now.
I don't. This hasn't sold me on it, I don't think.
No, I love my boss to be the kind of tyrannical oaf,
Oh, no, I don't.
Imagine the novelty coffee cups at the Redfin boardroom, though.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this shaped like a blood sample jar?
One side, my competitor's blood. Other side, my piss.
don't even talk to me until I've had my piss and my competitor's blood.
We're not selling coffee mugs again.
Yeah, it's nothing. 2 cups of my own piss, my competitor's blood, coffee, and jerking off and killing myself can't fix.
What's the exchange rate between these two fluids?
I think the piss is worth more, surely, right? Like
it's gotta be,
because you're working to extract that blood, right? So like,
absolutely,
labor theory of value, right? We're all Marxists here.
Piss basically comes out for free. All right, blood, you got to try to get that bad boy. That's
right.
Labor.
That's right. Piss comes out already as a usable good. The blood is like linen or whatever. You got to get so many bolts of blood, and then you got to like weave those into coats, right?
I'm trying to draw your attention to another line.
Okay, yes.
That I really enjoyed from the Redfin earnings call from the American right move, but what if it also originated mortgages, did home flipping, and tried to do a little bit of AI nonsense before it flamed out. I love the part where he says, at the very end, we'll drink our own urine before the blood. Actually, I wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah, no, I've got that the wrong way around. Absolutely blood first.
It's the moment of like realization, like crystallizing in this man's brain,
like, Oh, I meant to say
that.
And he says, by way of ending his comments, I love to notify you, which is
I'll let you know what we're drinking, all right? Stay on the line.
Stay in the foxhole.
Because like also it's like he's taught, because basically every publicly traded company will have these earnings calls with analysts whose job is to cover that company.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like Jay McCandless, his job is to know what Glenn Kelman is thinking.
He's
That's
a synthesist.
Part of his
Absolutely.
job. Yes.
And he's like, I can interpret these deranged kind of rantings and say, is this company a good investment or not?
Yeah. Okay, they said blood first. That's a buy. That's a strong buy signal. Kelman's eyes rolled back into his head and he started speaking in tongues. That's actually hold.
Listen, we can't rule out the possibility of like some kind of revelation having occurred here, him being possessed by some kind of like warrior god. Like the sort of 1, 2, 3 punch of drink our piss, drink their blood, stay in the foxhole is like, my man was briefly like, risen by Mars, god of war, for a second,
Stay in the foxhole.
It's so weird that Redfin built its corporate HQ on top of this like chasm in the earth through which like hallucinogenic gas rises.
Yeah, the address is actually like the oldest house. You don't need to write nothing else, it'll get there.
Vladimir Putin opened the oldest house. Found out something about Glenn Kelman. Anyway. I have nothing to say further about Redfin as a company. I'm not going to talk about their AI tool. I'm not going to talk about like all the bad shit that they do for flipping houses. We're pure Kelman heads.
Absolutely.
We are all living in the town of Glendale.
We like
Glenn Kelman's
we
town.
like his solo work,
Yeah, yeah. Glenn Kelman unplugged. No, we got a good episode for you here today. We are going to be talking about a little bit of news. We are going to be talking then just mostly, mostly about a little article written by a little guy. A Substacker came to Britain. Not just a Substacker. He was a Bush speechwriter, and I think I can say this. Not influence peddler to the Malaysian government. I'm not saying that, but he seems
very carefully not saying that he peddled influence to the Malaysian government.
There's a subhead on his Wikipedia. Don't worry about it. There's some things in there.
Allegations of influence peddling to the Malaysian government. Basically, the way to understand Joshua Trevino is he's a reverse Ian Miles Chong for pay in the early 2010s.
Like a sort of a mercenary reverse Ian Miles Chong. Is what you're saying.
Yes. He was in the early 2010s. Well, no, actually...
It's a real shame that Warren's even died so young, because otherwise he would have gotten to write songs about guys like this.
He wasn't even himself a reverse Ian Miles Chong. He was alleged to have paid like the white writers for like Red State and the Washington Times and like Breitbart or whatever to write favorable articles about the Malaysian government and unfavorable articles about the recently ousted opposition.
I don't know how much you need to pay me to write favorable articles about the Malaysian government. You know, I think I could just take that on as like a new stance, and I think people would come with me on it, you know?
Yeah. We're going to get to that. We're going to do a little bit of news first. I wanted to... What should we start with? Should we start with Musk in Brazil or pension funds in Israel?
Oh, give me that Brazil. Give me the Brazil news.
Hit me with the Brazil.
So when we talked to Brian Merchant about sort of Elon Musk and how he was personally implicated in like cheering on and cheering for and decrying any kind of response to the race riots that happened in his country. One of the things that sort of points that Brian mentioned, which I thought was really, really interesting, is that this isn't the last time Elon Musk is going to do this. And the next time he does it, it's going to be more personal and probably with a country he understands less.
Yes.
And
Perfect.
I think what we didn't talk about is that like in many ways there isn't going to be a next time. It already has been happening.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It keeps, you know, they run into each other, right? Like in the time when we recorded that episode, he was beefing with Keir Starmer. Immediately afterwards, it was Venezuela. Now Brazil.
Yes.
Man has ADHD. What can I say? I do the same thing.
It's just that like a list
of the whole globe, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's just like a list of people that like Elon Musk is mad at, and it's just the Animaniacs Countries of the World song. Like
basically, he is more or less personally taken to, again, let's say a Libs of TikTok style sort of campaign to say, boy, I hate Judge Alexandra de Moraes of Brazil.
Yeah. Who will rid me of this turbulent judge, right?
Yep. There can be no, there can be no democracy in Brazil. Well, Judge Alexandra de Moraes is on the bench, to the point where he also says the people of Brazil have a choice to make: democracy or Alexandra de Moraes.
I mean, it's a perfect inversion as well, because wasn't Dilma impeached and then Lula imprisoned by extremely corrupt and political right-wing Brazilian judges?
Yes, but it didn't involve the suppression of the post of memes, and that's where Elon Musk draws the line.
I think it suppressed Lula's posting of memes for a long while, like a few years, you know?
Yeah.
They don't let you post memes in prison. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's one of the human rights, actually.
Yeah, Brazilian prison, they take away your phone. Terrible.
What the fuck?
They let you have a phone. It's just like a Nokia. You can play Snake, but no memes.
You know what? That's kind of what I want, I think.
During the Lula digital detox, where you play Snake for 3 years and come out a different kind of communist.
There are like, because I'm doing some research on this right now for like a little like side project, and there are like rehabs where that is the thing. It's like they won't sort of take away your phones or devices. They have like tiered systems, right? And one of those tiers is like we sort of downgrade your tech, and one of them is like we give you a dumb phone.
I got downgraded so far. They gave me like a rotary phone from the 1940s, made of Bakelite. I'm trying to play Snake on this motherfucker. It's like getting repetitive strain injury in one finger.
The big brick-sized ones with a like wired thing. You can get like tiny little like Android smartphones.
Yeah, for like shoving up your
screens.
ass to like get into like Wormwood Scrubs with. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, or get into wherever with.
It should have given one to Lula.
You can get anywhere.
I'd love to have one of those cool tiny phones that you see like in like BBC prison like dramas. I think that'd be really cool.
Buy one probably. Guy who gets really into like phone smuggling in prison, not because he wants to make phone calls, but because he really enjoys shoving the phones up his ass. It's just like he's getting off on this. It makes the whole thing pretty unsavory for everyone else. That you have to pay Kinky Barry for your phone, and he's just like, you know, he's into it.
Nobody likes it, but he's the best. All right, if you want it got in there.
I swear to fucking God, I wish Kinky Barry charged more. It feels weird he charges so little.
He's giving me like mates rates at this point. It's like
Basically, in my understanding of what's going on is essentially that Alexandra de Moraes was like one of the judges who after the sort of Brazilian you might say like fascist uprising in favor of Bolsonaro, he was one of the people who sort of came out against was one of the anti-Bolsonarismo sort of like judges, one of the leading figures of the like anti-Bolsonarismo movement. who one of the things he has done, I see we've got a link in the chat here.
Yeah, to the world's
I will finish saying this, and then you can all come back to your snickering. Is that basically one of the things that he's done quite a bit. One of the things he's done is he's ordered Twitter to block a number of like far right accounts, like Brazilian libs of TikTok.
The guys who were like storming the Brazilian legislature during their January 6th, which was like fucking February 7th or whatever. I don't remember.
I think it was like January 10th.
Yeah,
it was like really close by.
Yeah, but like
derivative
because all those guys got arrested and because they're under like criminal investigation or whatever, and like it's an inquisitorial justice system. Like as a judge, he's more like a prosecutor, right? Like he's directing an investigation into this thing. He can charge people. So like he is essentially ordering that these accounts, as you say, be suspended. And Elon is like, I don't want to suspend Brazilian libs of TikTok, right?
No.
Which apart from anything else, is like allows him to get back to his kind of freedom speech pose, which is very convenient for him, you know?
Yeah, I refuse to spend lava-jatos of TikTok. But he gets to go back to that. But ultimately, it's that he is, because of how he has aligned himself, he is setting up basically a kind of through sort of a series of personal grievances that are continuing to cost the company an enormous amount of money, right? He is deciding to defend the idea that, again, you can just like as part of a incipient coup, you can, as part of doing that, you can just decide that all of the like electronic voting systems that people are using to like elect Lula or whatever were vulnerable to fraud. Right? You can just do that.
It's more, I think, proximate than that, right? It's just saying essentially like we will like defy regulations, right? And like we've seen other tech companies, other social media companies like take their stand on other things, right?
But they hire lobbyists that say, please let us defy the regulation. Please let us rewrite the regulation. They take them out to dinner.
Yeah, or it's a more calculated thing to be like, okay, well, we weren't doing much business in, say, China, right? But we will get some like brownie points with countries that are opposed to China by being like, no, fuck the Communist Party. We're not going to like suspend these accounts or whatever. Whereas in this case, it's like, once again, one guy getting radicalized by like memes in a language he doesn't speak, you know? Meanwhile, Bolsonaro is touring the country getting attacked by bees. That's not a joke. He got attacked by a swarm of bees while he was like speaking.
And yet they didn't kill him.
He's cursed.
It's a glancing blow.
I've been trying to figure out, like, is he cursed, or is nature trying to kill him and it keeps failing? In which case, is he the world's strongest guy?
I think nature might be trying to wound him. I think they're shooting to wound here. I think that's what the thing is.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the most wounded man, like short of Christ, you know, like.
What's that Trump thing he says? You could see so many wounds on me if I took this shirt off.
Yeah, take this off. You can see the bee sting, the
fucking cassowary got me.
The time I got stabbed.
It's my 8 rounds of COVID. They're trying to kill this guy. He's fallen afoul of a malicious druid at some point in his day.
If he hadn't fallen afoul of a malicious Brazilian druid, which incredible vibe combination. If he hadn't done that
would be fun.
He would be like incredibly powerful. He would be, as you say, like so much more like untracked. He would be wide Bolsonaro. Like, so really, that guy who stabbed him was doing the world like such a favor, you know.
He's doing for like ingesting small amounts of poison thing. He's trying to like get an immunity to being attacked by animals.
There's a real thing. There's a vibe shift happening, right? Because you remember when Reagan got shot, right? And they didn't kill him, unfortunately. John Hinckley Jr., aspiring assassin,
the Australian breakdancer.
Yeah, sure. Hey, remember when John Hinckley, the folk musician, shot that breakdancer?
Remember when John Hinckley, the painter?
Yeah. After that, things went back to being like normal and terrible, right? Whereas, like Bolsonaro getting almost assassinated, things continue to happen to him. Trump getting almost assassinated, things continue to happen. There's a final destination thing.
I'm fascinated by post-assassination attempt Trump.
Seriously.
Because he's so genuinely cut up by it.
I think he has PTSD, which...
Like, he probably has for real PTSD, which, like, I guess fair enough.
Couldn't happen to a nicer person. Trump calling the Samaritans and they're like, stay in the foxhole.
Stay in the foxhole. Don't worry about it.
Drink your own piss.
Drink your own piss.
To be fair, if he tried it, like... it might work. I don't know.
What it seems now, right, is that again, what Musk is saying stuff like the people of Brazil have a choice to make: democracy or Alexandre de Moraes. What does it sound like he's doing? It's saying,
to get
hey,
the motherfucker assassinated. Yeah,
a little triangle right now.
What, the Hamas triangle?
He wants to get a triangle dropped on Alexandre de Moraes. He wants to create
He's trying to unalive him. I don't know how couched a term I need.
Yeah,
this is an attempt on this man's life.
No,
he's attempting. He wants to get like whatever of his like repliers are speaking like Portuguese to him. He's hoping that they will start the Brazilian space program with Alexandre de Moraes. That seems to be what's happening here, and he's going to do it again and again and again. And this is a guy who again whose great like legacy of legitimacy outside the English-speaking world means he's more likely to be listened to.
I'm once again saying, right, as I said with Brian, that like states are going to have to think about how they want to defend themselves against Elon Musk. Not him specifically so much as like the phenomenon of people like him, and also specifically him. And again, I come back to the thing, like, we saw one of Twitter's like senior people be like, I should put out an arrest warrant for him. Not enough. Captain Price needs to go to Austin, Texas.
We need to extradite this man. Like, I don't want to be rude enough, but he's putting out like calls on twitter.com that are saying like, if you want your X account back, you have to kill this man.
Yeah.
And like, he let Laura Loomer on for free, which is fucked up. He should have given her a quest as well.
Laura Loomer getting off the plane in Sao Paulo. Like,
Laura, you can have it back, but I've got a list. All right.
Are you essentially being like, all right, remember that movie Munich? We're doing the plot of Munich, but for people who I'm mad at.
Everyone who has ever been rude to me.
If you want your X.com account back, you have to do something for me, brother.
With the little slap guns. You have to do the plot of Munich for me.
I'm Devon, by the way. I've been on Kill James Bond before.
It's a really good podcast, yeah.
Late of this parish, I think.
We're in fact so close that we forgot to introduce you, yes. Returning champion.
We were having fun playing Kelman and McCandless. Sorry, I didn't say drop out of character as Glenn Kelman. Everything you said in character as Glenn Kelman, and I became McCandless.
Stay in the foxhole. We're going to drink our own piss. We're going to drink our enemy's blood. We're going to send Laura Loomer to Brazil to assassinate Alexander de Moraes.
Yeah, but you say like how like states are going to have to ask themselves, how do I defend myself from Elon Musk? And some states are probably saying, hey, how can I defend myself from Peter Thiel? How come Palantir?
But all of them keep fucking around with Ukraine, and we have given them billions of dollars worth of drones. Like, at what point do you ask Zelensky to put one and one together and make two? You know?
Yeah. Look, who's gonna miss? Who's gonna miss like one battalion?
just send your like least Nazi guys. Might be a bit of a search, but like get them together and like if you can carry the war into like Belgorod and Kursk, surely you can carry it into Peter Thiel's house. Yeah,
we've gotten like the 22nd like least right wing motorized rifles.
Well, the guys who are in like DSA Ukraine, who are just like
our wokest guys.
It is big tent.
One of 22nd woke motor rifles has pronoun.
Yeah, codename pronoun.
We sent our 22 wokest guys, 21 outright Nazis. One guy who's kind of an edge case.
Codename pronoun. Come on. I mean, that's why we do it.
One man wants his X account back. The lengths he'll go to.
Oh, so the pronoun is he, him.
Yeah, fully.
So it's a cis man.
Because I am not
it's a cis man, but who like acknowledges that he is a cisgender man with he, him pronouns.
At the end of the quest, when he sort of like returns and they're like battered and bruised and like blood on their face, they're sort of presented with one more challenge, which is that they're asked a question. That question is, if you had to misgender someone to save the world, would you do it?
A question that the brave defense forces of Ukraine answer in the affirmative every day of this war.
They're gonna turn they them into was were.
So wait, the premise of this movie is that is that like Elon Musk has dispatched
I don't have a solid grasp on the premise of this movie.
I think I do. I think I know the premise.
Okay,
Elon Musk has dispatched the most banned people from the previous Twitter, like Laura Loomer, Tommy
the
Robinson.
Untouchables.
Yeah. Oh yes, the Unpostables.
Okay.
And then they're going after like Alexandre de Moraes, right?
Yes,
right.
And then it's like, okay, we were all told that like the liberal world order, the front line runs through Ukraine, so we've got the 22 wokest Ukrainian soldiers.
Yeah, being commissioned by Lula, who is played in this Guy Ritchie car crash movie by Hugh Grant. And listen, this is the same thing that's happening in Central Africa right now, kind of. Like, it's just the Wagner proxy war shit, but like displaced to South America. Let's fucking go.
Well, I was going to ask, is it more like Suicide Squad?
It's Shadowbanned Squad.
Well, because if it's Suicide Squad, then we can also commission like a song where you have Skrillex and Rick Ross, and like for some reason Jared Leto's there and there's a boat, and I feel like it's like one of the best music videos.
We could commission a song for this, regardless.
Yeah, I want Jared Leto as a Joker on a boat for like no reason.
I think you could get that for surprisingly little money.
Yeah, you could probably.
He's probably already doing it.
Yeah, I think you can persuade Jared Leto into a Joker outfit in the same way that you can persuade a Ukrainian soldier into like a neo-Nazi organization, you know?
Or you could persuade like, Horny Barry or whatever to smuggle you in a phone for free.
Yeah, it was already
Kinky
up
Bears,
there.
absolutely.
Kinky
He
Barry.
just came in with them in there already. Like,
I want to do one more news item before we get to our article. We're cooking today, which is a rare bit of like limited good news. Which is we talked about anytime we talk about Israel going to international humanitarian courts, one of the things we said is that yes, all these rulings are all like
sort of confetti, but like you can kind of for what that's worth, which is maybe not much, win temporarily on those terms.
sure.
Yeah, and now it's not a torrent yet, but a number of very important pension funds, like systematically important pension funds, have begun just divesting from everything that touches Israel.
Yeah, which is it's
Good.
weird how much of the economy is based off of like, I don't know, the like Ottawa Teachers Pension Fund or whatever.
Oh,
like
Canada, it's Ontario Teachers is one of the world's biggest investors.
why though? Like, how good are they at teaching?
Maybe they should be Ontario investors. I don't know. And also, by the way, this also should show just how fucking insane it is that we have like Bob, the CFO of the council, doing his best to do the same thing when the Ontario Teachers Plan, that's like one of the biggest sharks in the investment industry.
Oh, they're merciless.
crazy.
Like they don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Whereas we're like, okay, well, I don't know. Let's have, like
Trying to go in against the Ontario Teachers Fund, and they're like, it's your own time you're wasting.
Yeah, Bob, he knows a bit of Excel from like Thanet Council or whatever. Let's have him have a go at investing.
The bell doesn't dismiss you, cocking pistol. I dismiss you.
Right. So basically, this is one teacher's one fund. So we're not actually talking about that pension fund yet. I think we will at some point soon, because Canada also has rules about like not investing in countries where there's like international human rights law being violated. But the UK University Pension Fund, it's enormous. It is this UK's single biggest private sector pension fund manager.
Yeah, believe me, it's not because they're paying academics.
Yeah. Divested 80 million pounds of Israeli assets. The Danish pension fund, which manages 42 billion euros, has sold all of its investments in Israeli banks.
This is downstream of sanctions, right? Because they've sanctioned like some like West Bank extremists in the sense that they were like more obviously extreme than the Israeli government. And the thing is that, as we said at the time, this makes every Israeli bank functionally sanctioned because you can't have them guarantee that they're not going to ever do any business with those people. Like,
of course,
sanctions regimes, big hammer,
I mean, like, we're like 1 month on date of recording out from the ICJ being like, by the way, all of this shit is 100% illegal. Like, so like the fact that we're like kind of thinking about divesting now, sort of, is It's fine. It's nowhere near enough.
The hands are being forced is the thing. Like, it's not a decision they ever would have made on their own. And it's only that there's some, like, legal liability in the form of the United States, the federal government getting very mad at you if you continue to do this, you know? And it's something they've done by accident, more or less.
Yeah. Like every fucking pension fund in Wales, because I happen to know a beautiful lady who's done some reading about pension funds in Israel over the last couple of months. Late of this parish, Rebecca Wilkes.
Oh, great guest.
Like, if you have a public service job, if you have a public sector job in Wales at all, like, and you have a pension, your pension fund is invested in Israeli sources. There's just no two ways about it. It's all of them. And like, we need like more divestment strongly, immediately.
Absolutely.
This is like fine. This is a good start, I'd say.
Oh, this is a trickle.
Yeah.
That could, and the great thing about how investment works is that trickles become torrents very quickly.
And the great thing about how Israel works is that they're going to be so mad about this.
They are going to produce a fake reality TV show about this.
Every Ontarian teacher is in Hamas now and has pronouns.
What's their version of SNL? Where they're like, I totally stand.
Yeah, they've got like two.
They have two SNLs.
As Sankara said in their infinite.
They're just gonna be like, oh yeah, we're Norway's biggest pension fund and we're Hamas too. And I think the biggest thing here, it's not the pension funds divesting directly from Israeli banks or Israeli government debt. All of that is good. And by the way, how that would work, of course, is if enough of that gets sold, if it affects the value enough, if the value of those assets drops, then if you've bought any Israeli assets on credit that sink below a certain value, then you could end up having to like put up more capital to continue holding those assets with that line of credit.
It's not quite what you want, which is the shit that they did to Russia, which also did not work.
It's illegal to have this fucking stock anymore, cunt.
Yeah,
like, that's what we kind of want
to fully like to debank the entire country, kick them off of SWIFT, and start seizing assets abroad. Like that would be the ideal.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. What we're seeing, I think, is the best we can hope for with what we have, which is very little. But one of the things I thought was very interesting was that it's outside of Israeli banks and Israeli government debt. There's also Norway's biggest pension fund has sold a $70 million stake in Caterpillar, the construction equipment company, on the basis that its equipment may be used in contributing to human rights abuses in violation of international law.
All it took was like 30 years since Rachel Corrie and like, you know, sort of like decades of videos. But like, I'm glad it's happening now, you know?
And what it took ultimately is it didn't take any of because none of these decisions are being made because the managers of these funds, even the UK superannuation scheme, they were saying, oh no, this is not a moral decision. This is a financial decision only. And I think the reason it's a good financial decision is because all that shit's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at like the Caterpillar, it's not a moral decision.
No, it's if you're looking at like what the financial sector assumes the judgment is going to be from the ICJ and the ICC, they see the writing.
Wall.
Exactly.
Yeah. You sell Caterpillar now before everyone has to sell it, and then you won't be drinking urine.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is drinking. There right now, the Norwegian pension fund is drinking its competitor's blood. This is like this is the last little bit of margin call where they're like, "Hey, I've got Caterpillar. It's an amazing company. You should buy it from me right now. I'll sell it to you at 80 cents in the dollar."
What about this trucks? Bulldozers. He doesn't need a bulldozer.
Jeremy Irons going to show up in a helicopter to be like, we have to drink the blood. It's the only way.
Drink it all.
I understood margin call.
Yeah.
It was a very.
This is not this. I'm not making any predictions about the future of what's going to happen. It seems like if this is starting, that it's stuff that made it start in terms of like rulings. Is just going to continue.
To me, it's sort of like an interesting curiosity of like how the financial system works, and that's about it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it turns some curiosity into something at least a bit meaningful. It certainly won't be meaningful enough.
You can also just like make these bad investments in the interim if you're waiting for like judgments to come down and you happen to be in contact with PAL action. I don't know.
You can do some things, you know.
Yeah. Elbit is a worse investment now than it was at the start of the war, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, Barclays is a kind of riskier bank to bank with now, marginally.
I want to talk about now this article. It is called "This Sceptred Isle: Reflections on the Revolution in England" by Joshua Trevino.
Sick. Yes.
I've seen the article of which you speak, and I'm familiar with a genre here, which I'm going to lay a marker down, which I like to call thesaurus racism. And let me tell you that I find this personally exhausting. So this is going to be a trial for me.
That's right. So Joshua Trevino. Google an image of Joshua Trevino. You won't be disappointed.
Oh shit! Okay, well,
yeah. This is a guy who likes a handlebar mustache and a cowboy hat.
All right, let's take a look at Joshua
he's
Trevino.
literally soy facing in the second image.
This guy is so fucking stupid.
That's right.
This is like the absolute peak of seeing two images of a guy and knowing that he like grew the facial hair to make up for something. Like I see one of him with short facial hair and it's just like a joke, and then one with kind of long.
I think it's cool when cis men get gender euphoria from looking like Jamie Hyneman from Mythbusters. I'm not sure why they have to be a cowboy as well.
So Trevino, I mentioned earlier, right? He's sort of a kind of reverse, or at least a guy in charge of the Expendables of reverse Ian Miles Chong's. He also was like, before he became a sort of peddler of, let's say thesaurus, right-wing revanchism, he was like an epic conservative on Twitter, and he always used to, like love posting epic stuff like "Dear Border Patrol," "Dear IDF," or whatever. Yeah. So two of the top Joshua Trevino tweets were on being made to wait in a queue to get back into the U.S. from Mexico. He said, "Dear Border Patrol, my red hair and pale skin is my passport." It's like, "Dear Border Patrol, I look like shit."
Mm-hmm. My red hair, my red blotchy sunburned face.
Yeah. You see this? I look terrible here.
My skin is sloughing off of my face. Like,
help me, help!
Dear Border Patrol, help!
Just rolling up to the Border Patrol and holding up the like Family Guy swatches meme just straight away, like yourself. As you see, I'm top of this.
Just getting really existential with it in the Border Patrol queue. Just like, "Dear Border Patrol, how could a loving God cause such agony?"
Yeah.
Like,
"Dear IDF, if you end up shooting any Americans on the new Gaza Freedom Flotilla, well, most Americans are cool with that, including me."
Christ.
But of course, right, like every internet conservative who's been posting since like 2008, 2010, he went on from talking like a Marvel movie, which I would sum up with a tweet like, which I've just made up, "Walked over 0.2 miles to Starbucks only to see a blue hair barista and think, yeah, it's time for an eye bleach session, hashtag the fappening."
Yeah, that kind of situation.
It's time for an eye bleach session.
That kind of thing. Yeah. He went from toasting like that to being like, "Sublimity and Kiwitas are incomprehensible to the mind of the average Turk. Yet as T.S. Eliot said, the hollowness of man and nation alike is spiritual decadence, masquerading as virtue."
Yeah, I mean,
he's down bad. Like, that's
true.
all this is.
No, I mean,
it's the horniest anyone's ever been.
There's a real thing here, because like the reason why I've heard of this guy and the reason why I know about it is because this article that you're about to read was like fated by a lot of conservatives, most notably Rod Dreher, one of the biggest freaks out there. And there's something really, like, I think this whole ecosystem is fucked, right? And just bleep the word. I think there's something really about the way in which these like old dudes jerk themselves off about having found someone younger than them who they think can convincingly like use a 3-syllable word and pretend not to be into the like Sieg Heil stuff. And like it's a treadmill with these guys. Like Richard Hanania was the last guy until like he was like, you know, unable to hide the Sieg Heil stuff. Before that, there was another guy before that. And like my sort of warning from history to Joshua Trevino is that, you know, twink death, conservative twink death is real, you know, and like ultimately these guys, they don't care about you. They're just using you for your like thesaurus, you know.
It's dead.
They're just using you for your cool beard.
Twink death.
Basically, like this is the like only the conservative movement could provide like a 60-year-old man being groomed, you know.
It's so good.
We send our 22 wokest dark enlightenment guys.
So Joshua Trevino writes about his trip with his son in England. And I want you to give me the vibe that you get from this, right? Travelogues should be taken with due skepticism. The journalistic malpractice of going to a place to find confirmatory evidence for prior narratives is well honed.
You know what I see in my mind? I see PJ O'Rourke lovingly doing the like jerking off motion, you know? Because that was the one version of that guy who could write, and everything since has been like imitation.
Well, the marriage of objectivity and humility is uneasy. The two qualities divorce when the subject becomes a metaphor.
I'm always saying that. I'm literally always noting that the marriage of objectivity and whatever the second thing he said is always uneasy.
I've asked you to stop.
Please, November, I'm begging you, your family, your friends, just stop noting that and eat.
Desperately begging my friend to stop applying a heuristic.
We apply the American historical narrative template to the English, and they apply it with great enthusiasm and vigor to themselves, even unto their own ruin. And that ruin is everywhere you look if you choose to look.
Tweed shit. You know the other thing, right, about this
Unbelievable.
is the US is like the only country. This is the only time that the US out-nonces Britain, right? Because the US has this kind of permanent treadmill of like grooming 60-year-old men and being like, this is the future. This guy, he can write. You know, he's the one who's going to make it make sense to people. And it's like the same 5 like billionaires and like other freaks jerking themselves off in a circle about it, right? But like in Britain, we have that cottage industry, but it's all ossified around one guy, Douglas Murray, a guy who undoubtedly has experienced twink death, but like continues on in a kind of post-twink undeath, you know? And like, we don't have this kind of like treadmill of these guys, you know?
Well, you know, it's Dead Man's Shoes in England.
Yeah,
because it's like,
he's got like tenure, you know?
You have, or also if you want to actually get far in the industry, then you kind of have to have been in the Cambridge Footlights of Thesaurus racism. They all hang out in Edinburgh. Anyway, I'm going to go on. What we looked at was very nice. The core of the state, Westminster and its regime trainee outposts in Oxford and Cambridge. A more pleasant location could hardly be imagined, and my son, for whose benefit the expedition was undertaken, was delighted in it. Now, what actually transpired, I'm going to sort of skip to later in the article, right?
Yeah, because it's so overwritten.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it here.
He's come to England to look at London, and when I say London, what I mean is he goes to some museums and Parliament.
Okay.
Like, he takes the open-top bus tour.
Fuck off, man.
Sure,
And
so
then-
it sounds like a nice holiday, probably not something to write a whole thing about unless you're like Joan Didion, but go off.
And then gets the train to Oxford to, like, look at some colleges.
Should have stopped off at Bicester Village.
Well, and he says, the end of Christian iconography in the old sites in the realm of English Catholicism does not mean the end of iconography. Quite the opposite. The new religion clambers upon the ruined edifice of the old.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. It's like you fucking shot C.S. Lewis with a dart gun full of ketamine. This can't go on.
Among the American misapprehensions of Britain is that it's becoming Islamic. But this is in fact happening. It is notable. Well, you say, oh my God, but it is notable that a mosque is the only religious structure that I could see on the train from London to Oxford.
Perhaps I should be saying, Ya Allah.
In Oxford, all of the colleges are churches!
They're built from church. They made them out of church.
Yeah.
It's all church,
It's
man.
the Minecraft church block, which is just a little like Anglican church.
You went to Westminster Abbey!
Doesn't count.
You
Doesn't count.
saw the churches!
You were at St. Paul's. Like, just come on, man.
It's been secularized, I guess.
It's like oh no, it's all those are all museums. He does actually handle that later. He's like, oh yeah, well all the churches are gay now.
Oh.
yeah, they're not real
that
church.
is true. That got me there.
I'm always going to St. Paul's to get gay communion.
But he's like, a mosque is the only religious structure seen in the train from London to Oxford. Wrong, bitch! That's not true. That is just flatly not true. I don't care if you think that the churches in Oxford are gay. They're still churches. They're still religious structures.
But also, why would it matter? Why do you care? Like,
also, it's visible from the train. That's such a small portion of the country.
You're a tourist. You want to go and experience the place, and then you get mad that it does. Actually, that's kind of relatable. But it's just weeb shit. It's like Anglo weeb shit, where he's like, well, what the fuck? This isn't like my animes at all. This isn't like my G.K. Chesterton books.
There was a brief period where I was living in Earl's Court, and one day I bought this was deep lockdown. I bought a pomelo in Chinatown, and I put that pomelo in the front of my like bike basket, and I took it through Piccadilly Circus, through fucking Trafalgar Square, down the Mall, like through Hyde Park. I gave this fucking pomelo like, you know, baby's first TripAdvisor London trip. And this is essentially like if you ask that pomelo to write a fucking like column about what it's like to be British.
No, pomelos were so racist.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I cracked that fucker apart, actually.
It probably depends on what side of the train you're sitting on.
Hussein on the one side being like the sad guy looking at the mosques.
I'm looking at like the train route from Marylebone to Oxford.
Oh, that's what you're fucking doing.
So he was on the train, right, from Marylebone to Oxford, and he missed Bicester Village, the largest like tourist attraction outside of London, which has special announcements in Arabic and Mandarin. That was
also it's completely wrong.
Him.
Like the first church you pass is St. Barnabas Church in Perivale.
So he was on the train from Paddington, but like it's similar lines.
Oh,
you
right,
will pass many churches.
Yeah.
Also, you know this, like you didn't note Bicester Village. If you want to say that England's abandoned Christianity, it's abandoned it for Bicester Village.
That's closer to being true. It's still not.
Yeah,
but it's
you do see a lot of pure gyms. I will tell you.
There we go.
That's the modern church.
Yeah. If you wanted to write this exact article and have it be like less dumb, you would talk about Bicester Village, not about the one mosque.
I hate when I go to church and I have to scan in the code on my phone and it doesn't work and I have to go through the fucking...
He says, the Anglo-Saxon England of 1,000 years ago, in which the small church of St. Benedict was erected, was replete with iconography. Men and women encountered imagery of the saints, of Christ, as a matter of routine in their days. Today, the images remain and they're encountered daily, but they're of something else entirely. We walked through a London underground station whose dirty, long, white corridors...
It was 1,000 years ago. That's a long time, you stupid cunt.
No.
Well, November, we walked through an underground station whose long, dirty, white corridors were decorated with easily hundreds of images of London's queer population. Each icon
I know that fucking tunnel.
That's the thing you take away from the tube. Not that's your question. Not what the fuck is a well woman? Like
that fucking what's her name? Like Tessa Hadley or whatever is our actual icon.
Yeah, this is true. This is a society which worships some kind of feminine sort of herbal supplement. Clearly, they displayed her image down every escalator.
No, not Tessa Hadley. I was mistaken. Whoever it is. Each icon, let us use the word, contained a headshot of some sort with explanatory text below. One of them struck me that exemplified the rest. A man named Fotis, whose pronouns are ver.
Sick.
Elsewhere in a train station, we encountered an image of two African women in a passionate embrace. Its caption reminding the passerby that loving who you choose is what makes Britain Britain.
Hard stop.
How racist do you have to be to use the word African there?
That sounds wonderful. That sounds fucking beautiful.
What kind of 18th century race science do you have to be on to use specifically the word African there?
Unbelievable stuff.
It says, of course, its caption reminded the passerby that loving who you choose is what makes Britain Britain. Of course it does not, but it is purposeful...
You're not from here! You're American! Don't you think, perhaps, that the people who... I mean, obviously you don't because you're a giant fucking racist, but the people who have lived here at some point in the intervening millennium, since you cared about any of the shit that happened here, should have some say in their own governance instead of being some kind of Yankee Doodle theme park. It's so fucking insulting apart from anything else, and I'm glad that this motherfucker doesn't like my country. I want him to like it less.
Yeah, no, I want to make this country more stuff that this guy doesn't like, because he seems like he's got a perfect opposite lodestar. Like, whatever this cunt thinks is shit, like, let's get like 50 to 60 more of them.
This is making me feel on the verge of patriotic here.
What do you think he thinks about the crosswalk signs around Trafalgar Square?
He likes the straight one.
Yeah, he actually does say he likes the straight one.
I think about the straight one all the time.
He said, well, it's like the point he's trying to make, right? Is like, the new religion clambers on the ruined edifice of the old and apes its forms. And it's like, Because he thinks that he's invented this idea.
I gotta start smoking these stage cigarettes.
He thinks he invented this idea called propositionalism, which is that America has decided to reinvent itself as merely a proposition and not special because of its blood and soil. He's the first person who ever was like, hey, maybe blood and soil makes us special, and that anyone who says otherwise is actually making us weak.
See, this is the problem with these kind of like individual like sort of thesaurus racists, right? So they always have to, they can't ever comprise a canon. They always have to invent this stuff from first principles because it's a treadmill. They can't ever be like, oh, that's a brilliant idea from my predecessor in this role, Richard Hernania, who was exposed as like a full goose-stepping Nazi, right? Like
everyone likes to talk about blood and soil, but they don't like to talk about blood and urine.
Yeah.
We're going to be drinking blood. We're going to be drinking soil. Ugh.
So he says, all this is tutelage, of course. The images of photos and the like pervade the public square for instructional purposes. They teach the English their new narrative, their understanding of self, and their permitted ambit of thought and belief. And he then says, in Trafalgar Square. So he misspells the place that he's
Cinema Sins Ding
claims to care about Britain, hasn't read a single Aubrey Maturin novel.
After telling after telling my son about Lord Nelson, I noted that the crossing lights throughout the busy intersections.
I would bet money that every single fact he told his son about Lord Nelson was incorrect.
Yes.
You know what he knows about Lord Nelson? He knows, like, he watched a clip of Master and Commander of Jack Aubrey talking about Lord Nelson on YouTube, and then he just quoted it to his son.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, son, this guy...
I met this guy at dinner one time. He was hot.
He had a great boat cloak, you know?
So he's like, oh, yes, well, less common, a male and a female one paired. The regime narrative is that this is intrinsically British and therefore belongs in a quintessentially British space. Trafalgar Square?
Quintessentially British? Trafalgar Square? There's a statue of fucking ice cream out there, mate.
Like, by the numbers, Trafalgar Square is quintessentially pigeon, if it's anything.
We should let him have it. All right.
Yeah, but we kind of already have. Like,
yeah, we have.
The other thing I like, right, is because he's just here on like what I did on my like fascist holiday by Joshua Trevino.
Wow, I've just read this upcoming paragraph and I'm not happy, mate.
I'm jumping around. I'm going back to his his understanding of the regime via the gift shop.
All right, yeah.
He says there is a regime narrative undergirding this iron fixation. Which says that the proximate cause of the civic violence that swept the UK over the past 2 weeks is the regime's determination that people of... Yeah.
You know what? I think more than anything, this is an example of participation trophy, because I think someone gave this guy a gold star for using the word undergirding when he was a child, and it just stuck with him, and now he's...
You think it set him on a path?
Yeah, he's still trying to get that gold star, but from, like, Rod Dreher, which is the saddest thing I can imagine.
Ultimately, we're all, like, gifted kids, like, you know, with trauma. We're all seeking validation.
Yeah, it's just the thing he thinks he was gifted with was white. Like,
so right, he says that the regime's determination that people of England be subjected to and subsumed by the importation of millions of foreigners, blah blah blah. You know the whole story.
Yeah.
Says, there is a regime narrative undergirding
this is taking
this iron
forever.
fixation.
Just say the word, man. Like,
you see it in the outlets for elite approved materials at their expositions of history and its interpretations. The regime functionary. Stop saying regime, first of all.
We're busy people. I've got places to be. Like,
but I actually work for the regime, and my job is specifically to plaster everything with Frankie Bridge advertisements for vitamins.
That's who it was. Why did I say Tessa Hadley?
We're all regime pilled. My job for the regime is putting up the like slightly gentrified Uber, fucking called like what's it called? Fucking Addison DeWitt or whatever. I do those.
Or like those Uber Eats ads, which are just like an advert for like a Chinese restaurant, which is like you know better than your boyfriend could ever do, and you're like, what?
My job for the regime is to make sure that every restaurant like names their fries or their burger like the like greasy slut burger and has like a kind of faux street art picture of Biggie in the bathroom.
I'm the guy who is in charge of making sure that every single fried chicken place has like a vaguely racist name for the fucking Korean fried chicken.
Yeah, make all the like servers wear gloves when they're making the thing. The black nitrile gloves, like a tattoo artist. just my last thing, my job for the regime, the most important task of all. I am the person who makes sure that every person in London
on a weekend, goes to like a car park in Walthamstow to pay £28 for loaded truffle fries in one of those like kind of stand-up cardboard box containers. And listen, I have been given 18 medals for this service. I will never stop doing it.
My job for the regime is I work for Webdush Securities and I cover Redfin. So it says, the regime functionaries administering the British Museum make known their interpretive preferences in the capacious gift shop.
No.
There we find shelf upon shelf of books on offer detailing the England that evils have inflicted upon the world. It's like you're trying to write this sort of grand sweep of history, sort of taking your, propositionalism or whatever idea you think you've cooked up in your J.D. Vance, suck piece. And you're like, well, let's apply it to Britain. The gift shops.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Like, all of these people are suits, right? They're all tryhards. None of them are intellectuals as much as they purport to be. And while you can do interesting and worthwhile cultural criticism of a gift shop, it's very, very funny to be like, I am going to take my son to see the kind of wonders of empire as it once was, and then become so American and consumerist and so fucking burger pilled that you're like, the erasers in the gift shop are triggering me.
It's the only true horseshoe theory is getting mad at the British Museum, because I was there a couple of weeks ago and they've got the Rapa Nui head that they stole, and the whole plaque is just this is the most special head on the entire island. It's so cool.
Yeah, we got the best one from them
in 2018 to be like, hey, can we have that shit back? And there is a photograph of the delegation that came here to ask for it back on the placard and nothing else.
Under the head that is still here.
Give it back. But it's no matter what, everyone hates the British Museum. I was there give the fucking shit back, and he comes in and he's just I went into the gift shop and it said that Empire was maybe bad, tentatively, and that is fucked.
Left and right are going to the British Museum, and they're all shaking their heads to show they disagree with
and there's no aircon either. What the fuck is going on?
And you cannot get a livable salary for any museum job. You have to be independently wealthy.
Not at all. Well, because you love being there. You love it. And
you love being there because it reminds you of the house you grew up in.
Full of stolen goods.
And the other thing is he went on the open top bus tour of London and then Oxford, didn't mention Cambridge.
Yeah.
Curious. Skill issue.
Yeah. And immediately because he said he went to Oxbridge and then mentions Cambridge, not at all.
Again, suits.
I think he might think that Oxford is called Oxbridge.
He might, yes.
Yeah, but he went in these open top bus tours and just got turned into Edward Gibbon by the gift shop, essentially.
We should not let this guy back. If we're doing immigration controls, if we have to do them, I think we should probably
we should become volunteer
guy.
Border Police.
I will patrol the cliffs of Dover.
We shouldn't have let him out.
Well, your punishment is you have to stay in this country you hate.
Yeah, his punishment is that he has to open up a vape shop in Whitechapel.
Just in prison in Britain, and you're just well, this isn't very Anglo-Saxon, is it?
Capacious hating. You're going to prison.
I want to read through another few things here. J.R.R. Tolkien in his work has Galadriel. All these motherfuckers love Lord of the Rings. Has Galadriel say that together through ages of the world we have fought the long defeat. And this is the
thing to pretend you're an intellect. Read another book.
And this is his England now. Read a book that doesn't have any fucking swords in it, man. And this is his England now. It's yes, when I read the literature of the third Horus Heresy book, Prospero Burns. We entered the chapel at Oxford's Exeter College to see the bust.
Sorry. You entered the what? The what? You entered the what?
The chapel.
The what?
Oh, don't worry about it.
So did you mean the mega mosque by any chance?
He entered the mosque at Oxford's Exeter College to see the bust of Tolkien there. There at the rear of the mosque, behind the golden star and moon, is a large LGBTQIA+ flag.
Nice.
Cool. Sir Stephen Runciman, in his magisterial crusading history, records that Patriarch Sophronius, upon seeing
and this is why I think women
Omar,
shouldn't have driver's licenses. No.
Enter the Temple Mount, murmured through tears, behold the abomination of desolation. But the patriarch was premature on the matter of the apocalypse, and neither the Caliph Omar nor any Muslim has decorated the church at
telling
Exeter.
a story about another guy who was a dickhead and was proven wrong by history and being like, yeah, but I'm totally right this time. Like,
yeah. But the long defeat is a grappling with the enemies of the English who are the alienated sons of the English themselves. For example, at Bletchley Park, the scene of some of the most intrepid intellectual work of the Second World War, an Englishwoman of a certain age asked me what I thought of it all, and then delivered an apologetic monologue for Britain's treatment of Alan Turing, as if that was the centerpiece of the history there.
It is.
Yet for her it was. I chose not to share my own view, which was that Alan Turing, whatever injustice done to him, was dispensable to the survival of the civilization, but the mores he transgressed were not.
Right. Okay. Now let's just break that one down. What he says, the mores he transgressed were not; they were indispensable to the survival of civilization. Right.
Yeah.
So he's saying that, like,
if you're like a,
it's
we need
important to be homophobic.
Yeah,
like it's the number one thing.
civilizationally, yeah.
I got some disagreements, I think.
We need to preserve our cultural inheritance of the West that came from ancient Greece.
Yes.
And we need to do that by being as homophobic as they were.
Yeah,
We gotta listen. Here's the thing: we gotta figure out if Alan Turing received or gay, and then we'll figure out if it was cool or not.
If
that
he
got
was given,
fucking chemically castrated by the British government.
So you know what you're applying here?
Yes.
You know what you're applying here? You're applying the Tony Soprano rule that he used to determine Vito Spatafor's fate.
Yeah,
that's right.
Anyways, well, I mean, Tony Soprano was also a man who was concerned with like civilizational mores. You know.
It's a fascinating heuristic I learned from the Caliph Omar. I don't know if I can figure it out or not.
England still exists and the English are still here, but they are well into their long defeat. Having saved the world more than once and in more than one way.
You don't deserve.
One of the ways he says England saved the world was the Falklands.
You don't deserve us, man. Like we're a different place from the one you imagine. And I'm really glad.
Yeah.
At a park in London, we met some of the English, and I do not mean the British or even Londoners, because the woman of the couple told me directly that London and England have increasingly nothing to do with each other. And it's like, hold on, you're trying to write about what real Englishness is, and you were in like museums and some Oxford colleges.
Yeah, I mean, he could have gone to
and
some really shit pubs and had a horrible time and met people as racist as he is. If you're gonna try and peddle this shit, you do have a kind of a not journalistic but like authorial duty to go to like, you know, deepest England, right, and sort of confront what that means. But he doesn't want to do that because it's gross to him, right? Like the kind of, you know, football hooligan riot shit isn't his kind of speed. What he wants is, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien or whatever. And that kind of thing exists in the person of one guy left, the one undying fascist ex-twink Douglas Murray.
So, it says, you could tell that she and her man, they were unmarried but with children, were not Londoners, the same way you could spot a rural Appalachian native or a resident of southern Indiana immediately in Brooklyn or on the Harvard campus.
Shit, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, his last article was about J.D. Vance.
But like again, it's like Peter Thiel complaining about how like he doesn't want to move to Texas because everywhere in Texas is a shithole, right? Like all of these people love to be the beneficiary of liberalism, right? And they want to live around liberals and feel superior to liberals, and they want to like all the cachet of that. They just don't like it when like things like, oh, you know, this poster has like a queer person on it or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's even like we go back to, I always say it's people getting mad at marketing. It's like it's the London Underground is trying to just market itself. The British Museum, it's trying to do, doing a marketing campaign so it can keep all of its stolen shit.
But like they enjoy it and they can turn it into content and they enjoy being furious, right? Like if sort of like if he was that exercised about this, there are places where you can go and you can live this kind of like pseudo Anglo-Saxon existence if you want to, I guess. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to get mad at a fucking stoplight.
I think like the best example is very much like people who sort of romanticize Japan and they sort of, and it's like very much like wanting to, it's, you know, like marketing I think is the key thing, but like being a weeb for Britain and
pathetic,
kind of expressing expressing your disappointment that like you went to a place and like people actually live there and they do stuff and they don't kind of mold to like your fantasy of what they should be. And you're right, because it's like, well, if you wanted to go into deepest England, you could have gone to like fucking Wiltshire or something, right? Where like a I have been to Wiltshire a couple of times. Like that is very much it. It is, you know, cottages and farms and all that type of stuff, right?
Or you could go to Oxford and then take a bus 20 minutes. I don't know what you would do in like a town outside. I don't know what you do in Whitney, but you can go there. It is there. You could go to fucking Sherborne. It's all white people and has an abbey.
Sort of the English equivalent of going to Yoker on a whim, you know?
Yeah. But it's like the people who are like, oh, London isn't what it used to be. They used to be more like Cockney lads and stuff. It's like, well, but you can go to Essex. Like you can.
Yeah.
It's not that.
There's still somewhere.
Sort of the Cockney government in exile in Kent and Essex, yeah.
It is still there. It is like not that far away. Like one of the kind of debates that is happening is that they don't want to be in London, but they're so close to it that like they're sort of merging into it naturally. But they are very much still present. They're not like, and again, like I wonder how much this feeds into this whole like the conspiracy theories around like, you know, demographic replacement and white genocide and stuff. Because it's like, yeah, but they're not dying. They just moved somewhere else.
they just moved to Essex and got veneers. Like,
yeah, they don't live near the touristy areas. That's it.
But also, like, these are pubs that you have to drive to, as you mentioned. They're pubs that you have to drive to. If you want to go see these people, you need to be able to drive a car. This guy is like rocked up in London and he's taking public transport. Well, like, who the fuck do you think uses public transport?
There's something especially like fucked up to me about being an American and coming over to Britain and being like, oh, it's not what it used to be. It's like, you fucking fought a war to get away from us, all right? Don't come back here and just be like, oh, like imagine being a weeaboo for Britain as an American. It's like, Jesus Christ,
it's like
man.
your ex messaging you like 5 years after the breakup being like, seems like you don't have your shit together.
It's
like,
over. First of all, I don't, all right?
No, I know.
I'm fucking trying. I'm doing my best, all right?
In crucially, Jenna,
It's
different
bad
way
over
that
here.
you think I don't. Like,
yeah, like fucking let me show you around. Let me show you my England, okay? You'll hate it way more. Like, it's so much worse.
So this is him talking to the woman, right? He says, we spoke, and she told me of the rampant crime in her northern town, the increasingly impossible cost of living, the NHS in shambles, blah, blah, blah.
all the problems.
And it struck me that we were both visiting London as foreigners, but with her it was a tragedy because the city was supposed to be hers. But also, in the history of Britain, when was London ever supposed to be for like working people from the provinces?
Never.
It was like it was where the elites
You're confusing
lived.
it with Washington DC, a capital that was constructed to be a sort of like federal pilgrimage place, whereas London was always designed as a kind of boot on the rest of the country's neck.
London's a fucking tick on the rest of the UK, all right? Like, it's a
I
parasite.
like my metaphor
like, it just
better.
Gets everything. All right, well, you know, I guess I can kill myself.
No, it's, I'm
Right.
just like, it's a parasite. It's an honorable title. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But also, it's when in British history did the wealthy people who owned this city and who owned the rest of the country living in it, when did they ever want to design it or think it to be hospitable to people from fucking Bradford? They never thought that. This idea, it was supposed to be
Nobody
her.
gives a shit about Bradford.
raising my hand. The 3 years between 1997 and 2000 when they built the London Eye and the Dome.
That's true.
There we go.
That's 100%
That's
true fact.
That's what Joshua Trevino is actually nostalgic for. He's nostalgic for the fucking dome.
Yeah, aren't we all?
There used to be a big boy and now there's no boy. Oh, there was a big boy.
And you know what? That big boy was white.
There used to be a big white boy that overlooked London and now all the boys are gone.
Now it's just one small white boy looking at London and being sad, you know?
A small, soulful white boy named Joshua Trevino who's going to use the word undergird.
I hope he fucking undergirds
I'm going to finish
himself.
up here. The one whose culture and literature and language utterly dominated the consciousness of mankind. He's talking about England here. Not merely by the fact of empire, as some would have it, but by reason of its enduring genius.
This is not even
It is
wrong.
the
You
one-
need to be more of a Francophile. France won the culture war, sorry.
It is the one whose green hills and tall trees and cool summers remind us of Eden when the sun goes low.
Fucking eight.
You never left London except to
build
go to
Jerusalem,
Oxford.
boys. We'll do it.
A. Houseman, also gay. Just for the record. William Blake, something weirder than gay. Like, fuck off.
It is the one where the sense of humanity reached profundities unknown and impossible elsewhere, where the bones of Anne Boleyn and Thomas More lie mere feet from one another in a common chapel, somehow fused into a common heritage that transcend the causes which killed them both.
Dead fucking idiots who have absolutely no bearing on my life. I don't care. This is the like
Bones dissolve in 20 years. They're gone. Shut up.
This is the like futility, right, of conservatism as an ideology, right? Is you're trying to justify yourself to like dead people. You're like wandering around a
cemetery knocking on tombs like a fucking Jehovah's Witness. And it's like, it's absolutely pointless, not least because they can't fucking answer you. Like, do you want to care about the people who are here now and the people who might be here tomorrow, or do you want to just like go and bother some like long dead queen's collection of like bone-accreted heavy metals?
Well, it's also, you talk, the bones of Anne Boleyn and Thomas More lie feet from one another in a common chapel, somehow fused into a common heritage. Hey, if you cared about anything to do with English history, as you seem to claim to, maybe you wouldn't use the word somehow. Maybe you would know how that happened. Yeah.
I don't know.
It is one where we stumble across a wall, and it's a Norman battlement for the suppression of Anglo-Saxons. It's one where we come across another wall, and it's a Roman rampart from the suppression of Britons.
You didn't make it anywhere near that far.
Very, very easy to visit. Well, I mean, relatively considering the trains, you know.
Yeah, you'll get there in 7 hours.
And you come across another wall, and it's a mosque for the suppression of white English. Hey, wait, how'd that get in there? Yet, where are the Romans now, and where are the Normans now? England remains. Cunt, the Normans own all the property still.
Yeah.
There's so many of them around. They're baronets and shit. I feel the reason I wanted to read this article is I was worried that like this species of like writing had died out, but like it is still very alive and well on the Substack of Joshua Trevino.
It's like I say, it's a treadmill, and after him there will be another, and we are doomed to continue repeating this over and over again, never learning a fucking thing. Tolkien would have hated his ass as well, you know?
The only person who wouldn't have just fucking hated this guy is Lord Haha. That's basically it. Anyway, Devon, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today.
That was an absolute treat. Thanks for inviting me on, man.
Now that we've introduced you, I guess we can start the show. We've done the cold open
this
now.
has been
have a complimentary cup of blood and have a complimentary cup of piss.
Yeah.
I hope we're telling all the guests that going forward.
Yeah, I know that you stand before a doorway, 2 guards guarding. And one holds a cup of blood, the other holds a cup of piss. What do you do?
The illusion.
Blood first, obviously.
Free choice.
Yeah. blood and piss. All right. We got to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, there is a Patreon. There's a bonus episode, $5 a month. It's going to be our live show from Edinburgh.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was all bangers, like no skips.
That's right. So do check that out on the Patreon.
You know what else you should check out? You should check out a little podcast called Kill James Bond.
We've got some live shows coming up on the free feed in a minute or two as well. It should be nice. I'm hoping they're going to be good. I haven't actually listened back to them yet, but like I'm pretty sure.
You can also if you want, check out the Twitch stream that Devon and I are on. That used to be Trash Future associated and no longer is. Called Traditional Scratch. Yeah, that's right.
I think Joshua Trevino should write an article called Johnny English Has Fallen.
This used to be the land of Mr. Bean.
This is not the Johnny English of my ancestors. Edmund Blackadder.
That's what I was
now
saying.
It's the land of flicking bean. People are masturbating.
And did that bean?
We used to have bean
in
jobs,
ancient time.
We have no hope, no jobs, and no fucking bean.
Oh yeah, listen to that.
No bean. Am I right, everybody?
No beans.
All right. We got to get out of here.
10K posts. I produce it. It's pretty good. Well, there's your problem. I do that shit too. It's all right. It's pretty good too.
Check out all the stuff that is happening now.
The whole galaxy.
Have a gander.
All right.
Have a little gander at that. Go to a protest,
yes,
please.
for the love of God. I don't want my good news section to be like another pension fund has sold some Israeli bank bonds or whatever.
Go to a protest in London if you can, or if it's there, and you can go to the British Museum and shake your head to show that you disagree with it for like lots of different things, whether it's to do with the stolen artifacts or the lack of air conditioning.
Or the gift shop. All right. We got to go.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you in a few days. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.